the economy. And the first one is, would you have voted for TARP or for any of the stimulus packages?
No. I would not have voted for TARP, nor would I have voted for stimulus packages. We talk about the stimulus packages. The Obama presidency has said that they're going to create jobs. Clearly, that hasn't been the case. What we've seen is unemployment levels staying right about where the administration threatened they would be had we not passed the bill at all. My view is that in the long run, this extraneous spending, this wasteful spending, is going to lead to even higher unemployment rates. Because as we're sucking money out of the private sector to give it to the government, there's no room to create jobs. On TARP, I believe TARP was a horrible mistake. I think that there are no businesses that are too big to fail. We have a history of having big companies fail and little ones sprout up in their place. This was, in my view, an effort to give a lot of people who made bad decisions an exit strategy to avoid personal and institutional bankruptcy. I think the better approach would have been to have an orderly bankruptcy of these institutions, and frankly to let the people who made the bad decisions take the ball and let the chips fall where they may.
Do you believe energy independence is compatible with free trade?
With free trade? Mm-hmm. Energy independence and free trade. I believe that, yes, of course they are. There's no doubt about that. We in fact need to have energy independence not forced by the government, but allowed to occur. And if the government will get out of the way and allow Americans to do what they need to do to get energy, whether it's out of the ground, whether it's nuclear power plants, solar, wind, across the board, I actively promote an all-of-the-above energy strategy. If we just let America get to business and create energy and get that energy out of the ground, we're going to be energy independent. We don't need to worry about making laws for that to be so. So I hope that gets to your question. But they are certainly compatible. In fact, I would argue that America ought to be an energy exporter. This next century is going to be about energy. And our state's economy is going to be about energy if we can get government out of the way. I mean, you think about all the great companies we have here, whether it's UTC or the Westinghouse up north of Hartford there. We have all this potential to be an energy exporter, and instead we have the highest electricity costs in the continental United States. That's because of government interference, not because we don't have enough smart people working in Connecticut on how to bring about that energy revolution.
What immediate actions need to be taken to turn the economy around and stabilize the dollar?
Now, immediate we're talking about in the next year or so, right? Next couple of years. So there's a few things I think we need to do. And you also want to know about turning around the dollar. Well, let me start first with the economy. And I think there's three main parts to this. First is going back to energy. We have got to get energy costs down. There's no doubt about that. Manufacturing cannot exist in this type of energy environment that we have here in Connecticut. And nationally, we're killing ourselves with these high costs. They could be much lower. Number two is getting the cost of health care down. Because for a lot of companies, this has become a huge drag. Now, the way to do this, though, is not with a 4,700-page bill that creates a $1 trillion bureaucracy and 16,000 new IRS agents. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry?
Job creation.
Job creation, right. So there's a lot of common sense things we can do with health care. I'm happy to talk about that later if you need more extension on that, but tort reform would be one, just as an example. And three, getting taxes down. We've got to do that. The only way to do that is to reduce spending. And so those three things, if we can do that consistently over 1 or 2 years, we don't have to worry about the government creating jobs. The jobs will come. The jobs will be created. We'll keep jobs, and they'll sprout out where we didn't even think it was possible. You know, this is the United States of America. We've been making jobs here for 350 years. We've been doing it better than anyone in the world. And the reason why we're not creating jobs today is because people are afraid of what the government is going to do next. And they frankly can't afford to. Because there's been so many obstacles put in their way that they just can't get to hiring people and getting about their daily business, the business of America. So we got to get government out of the way. Those three ways, I think, are the best way to do it. Now, in terms of our dollar, the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar is the national debt. We are creating right now a whole lot of uncertainty about how much a dollar is going to be worth in the future. And if you think about where this debt's going, there's only a few options the government can take to address it, to take care of those large interest payments we're going to have to make. They can either raise taxes even further, horrible idea, especially in a recession. They can cut spending, which this Congress and past Congresses, Republican and Democrat, have proven unwilling to do, or they can go to the printing press. Any one of those options either spells monetary problems or big-time economic problems. And that will reduce the value of the dollar because people will just not have faith in our currency and our ability to pay that debt back. So we've got some big problems here. The national debt is really the key to avoiding these large problems and making sure our currency doesn't go south.
Do you believe it's politically possible to undo the entitlements bankrupting this country? And if so, what course would you recommend to undo this legislation?
Is it politically possible? Is that what you asked, or is it
Yes.
possible?
Do you believe it's politically possible to undo the entitlements bankrupting the country?
Yeah.
And what course would you recommend to undo this legislation?
Well, you're going to decide, and millions of voters are going to decide whether it's possible this election. This is a critical election for a lot of reasons, but if we don't have people down there that are independent-minded, if we have people down there that are going to go along with the party just because it's the party and they're trying to move their way up through the ranks, we are not going to solve this problem. America's problem right now is its political system, its politicians. That's where the problem is. And so we're going to see. We're going to see this election if we're going to have a country of citizen legislators, people that go down there to do the job and then come back. I know my wife has term limited me 10 years, and I'm glad she did, because my view is that we have a problem to solve, and if we can't do it within 10 years, I think the time bomb is going to go off anyways, and it's time to come home. And if we do solve the problem, well, then let's go home and go back to the private sector. But we're going to see. We're going to see. You know, a lot of people have thought, I know I have in the past, hey, are we ready as a country to elect people who aren't coming out of the state legislature or aren't millionaires? People, normal people who want to do the right thing, get the job done and come home. And there's a lot of people like that running this year. And we're going to find out if they can get elected or if the system is going to work against them and keep them from actually going down and doing the right thing.